Hi, welcome to another episode of A Couple of Things. Today, after much digging and searching, I'm going to talk about how to show up for your friends through life changes and stressful situations. And this is from personal experience from the past couple of years where I've had some very serious life changes and stressful situations. I hope you find these tips useful. This episode is based off of an article that I wrote sometime last year, 2023, actually last year. And so what constitutes a stressful situation or a life change? This could be pregnancy, childbirth, being ill in the hospital, getting married, moving to a new country, surgery, losing a loved one, losing a job. It could be anything like that. And you will know your friends well, or you should know your friends well enough to know what will constitute a life change and a stressful situation for them. And you should be able to fill in that blank. So, how can you support someone in these trying times or in these? And it doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? Like getting married is a great thing, but it can be, it's a big life change. So, you need to think of ways to support your friends through those kinds of changes. And the thing that we usually do is we'll ask, do you need help? Let me know if you need help. How can I help? And so forth. But sometimes the person doesn't know what they need in that situation, or they may not want to feel like a burden and not want to ask you for anything in particular. So recently, a couple of my friends have moved houses, and initially when I messaged them, I was like, do you need help with anything? And then I realized that I'm doing the thing that I was complaining about people doing. And so I said, do you need help with moving or packing or unpacking or getting furniture or something? And that way they were able to respond to say yes to a specific thing or no to a specific thing, or giving another ask that they had. So in addition to thoughts and prayers and sending all your love, here are some ways you can show love and support to your loved ones through whatever stressful period or life change that they're experiencing. So here's how to do it. It's presents, food, and money. Repeat after me. Presents, food, money. Number one, show up. Of course, like that's it. If your friend is at home, visit them. If they're in the hospital and they're allowed to have visitors, go there. If they're moving houses, go to their house to help them move. Like, show up. Some people are hesitant to ask for that kind of help, but if you have the time, if you have the capacity to, then just go. If you're not able to go for whatever reason, send them a text to tell them that you're thinking of them or they're in your thoughts or whatever. Just do something to show up. My personal preference is to not receive calls when I'm experiencing a stressful situation, because you are stressing me out. I'm already stressed, and then I'm receiving calls. I'm extra stressed because everyone will probably also be calling at the same time, especially in a situation where someone is sick in the hospital or they've lost a loved one. Lots of people will be calling, and it's just making me more stressed. So don't call me. Text me. When I have time, I will respond. And I believe that this is how most people also feel, but this is just my own personal rule of thumb. And I also try not to call people when I know they're going through stressful situations in the moment. I will send text, voice notes, and basically say, I am not calling because I don't want to stress you, but here's a text or a voice note, and say whatever I have to say. Basically, you want to make it as stress-free for them as possible to engage with you. And all the apps allow you to respond to text with like emojis. So that makes the person not have to do too much work to acknowledge your message. If you're visiting someone, if you're actually showing up, especially when it's a negative, stressful situation like sickness or death, try not to talk too much so you don't say nonsense, right? Stay there with the person, be comfortable in the silence, just be there. Really, that's a lot of time, that's what people need. They just need somebody to be there and be present. And if you're visiting, don't expect to be treated like a guest, especially when in the situations I already mentioned, or maybe they've just had a baby, don't expect to be treated like a guest. You are there to be supportive and not be a burden to them. So if you can do things like tidy up their house for them, or give them a cleaning service, or send them food, which is the next point, but you get the idea, like just show up. And the other two things, food and money, I'm going to put them as talk about them together. During stressful situations or life changes, especially when it's unexpected, like I had emergency surgery a couple of years ago, and I didn't have anything because it was emergency. Like I wasn't prepared, so I didn't have food in the hospital. I didn't have clothes. I didn't have things. My mom was able to bring me stuff, but during the week I had to think about food and all of those kinds of things. And in those kinds of situations, people are usually not able to cook, or they're spread thin financially and they may not be able to buy food often, which is something that tends to happen when you're in that kind of situation. You need to buy food because you don't have the energy or time to cook, or you're so weighed down by whatever is happening, or you're so busy with the situation, right? So send food. Even if somebody was in the hospital and they're out of the hospital after a couple of days, weeks, send them food. Go with food when you go to visit them. And you don't have to cook the food if that's not your area of specialty. You can order them food. And then that also ties to the next thing, which is money. You can send them food vouchers. You can message a vendor and pay the vendor beforehand and ask the vendor to reach out to them, or ask them to reach out to the vendor. Money is money. Everything is expensive. Any kind of life change, marriage, childbirth is expensive. Having surgery is expensive. Being sick is expensive. Losing your job is expensive. So all of those things, there are costs that add up. And if you help them with money, whether it's in terms of transportation, buying food, covering some expenses for them. And it doesn't mean that you have to give them millions of dollars or millions of naira or millions of euros. Do what you can. 5,000 naira goes a long way. £10 goes a long way. €10 is something. Order Uber Eats, order pizza. It's just one less thing for your friend to think about. So in summary, presence, food, and money. And be sure to always follow up, right? Don't just send a text one day and then that's it, or send food one day and that's it. Follow up. And don't be offended if they don't reply you immediately or they don't get back to you, because again, they are going through a life change and a stressful situation. I hope this helps. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.